to Dr. Beren Patros, our esteemed speaker. So he is here to share his insights on the challenges in agriculture and plant sciences. A special greetings to all students from schools and colleges across Kerala who are enthusiastic about innovating to make a meaningful impact. So just before we begin the session, I would like to give you all a gentle reminder. So I request all the participants to keep yourself mute throughout the session. Also, the session is live streamed on YouTube, so you can watch it there as well. So there is also a question and answer session once after the speaker finishes his talk on the topic. So you can also ask your queries to him. So over to Mr. Kumareshan, who will be welcoming the speaker as well as introducing him to the participants. So over to you, Kumareshan. Kumareshan, kindly unmute.
Yeah, sorry. So today's thematic area is agriculture and plant science that has been taken by Dr. Berlin Patros, Associate Professor at the Department of Agriculture and Entomology, College of Agriculture, Thrissur. Dr. Berlin Patros is also the Planning Director of Kerala Agriculture University. He has won many awards and accolades, including the International Agriculture and Rural Development Award from Cornell University and the Young Scientist Award from ICAR. He is also an associate editor in various journals, has published 38 papers, and he is the author of over 18 books. And he is extremely attended over 25 funded projects as principal investigator and co-principal investigator. He is also guiding PhD students in various areas of research. So we strongly believe that Dr. Berlin Patros is the right credible person for the today's section. Over to you, sir.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. So it's extremely happy. Hope I am audible. My voice is clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay, fine. So thanks for the introduction, and I welcome all of you for this session. So I am part of this YIP through my college and my university. The Young Innovators program of KIT is from its first year itself. So the past several years, I am associated with Young Innovators program. So as part of this YIP, we used to evaluate a lot of ideas put forth by students at different strata, maybe from schools, maybe from colleges, and at different levels. So today, I will just like to highlight, especially your school students, what are the criteria that you might choose, or you might adopt while choosing an idea for proposing in YIP. Because most of the times, students, when they propose an idea, what as an evaluator, what we feel is that the students are proposing an idea without considering the practical realities at the ground level or the ground realities. See, especially as a person who is working in agriculture, these agriculture related topics, whenever we see, most of this, whenever we are saying a proposal from an engineering college student, mostly it will be with sensors, IoT or technology enabled agriculture, etc. But whenever you are proposing such kind of technologies, high-end technologies, the first and foremost thing that we should consider is how this technology can be adopted in the farmer's field or can be adapted to the current farming situation in the field level. So most of the times students lack that part. So I don't know whether this year also, the last year, when you proposing a idea in a YIP, at the time of registration, you have to complete a module called as Voice of Customer, VOC. I think this year also that's the so in the case of VOC, Voice of Customer, that's mainly say if you're developing a product, that product, how it is useful to the end user or the consumer. Say, I am developing a new product, say, mobile phone, when it was introduced maybe 25 years or 30 years back, it was a new product. How, whether, how a product can be accepted by the consumers. They take the case of cars and or other, most of these uh, branded commodities. Before introducing a new commodity, so before introducing a new car into the market, these companies will carry out a survey among the uh, consumers, the prospective consumers or the persons who are using cars, and what are all the things they desire to have in a new car. So all those things they try to incorporate into that car, and they will introduce the new car into the market. So similarly, that's the case of a commercial product. It's intended to a typical consumer. So in the case of agriculture, if you are proposing an idea, the major consumer here is farmer. So the voice of customer, I will try to reframe it as voice of farmer. Instead of VOC, it should be VOF. We should hear the voice of farmer before we put forth an idea in the YIP. Because farmers have diverse challenges. It's not the challenges that you can easily understand while you are in the school or in the home. If you are from a farm family or your parents are in agriculture, you will get at least few ideas. But although it is extremely difficult for a person raised by the farming community. So you should always try to keep in mind that that idea should be acceptable to the farming community. You should hear the voice of the farmer first. One major challenge with agriculture is the problem faced by a farmer in Trivandrum district will be a particular kind of problem, and that if you ask for a farmer from Kollam district, he will say that it is entirely different problem. If you ask from Thrissur, he will say that his problem is entirely different. So I'll take a typical example. If you go to a midland or high ranges of Kerala, the most of the farmers will tell you that the major problem that they face is wild animal attack. But if you move into the coastal areas, then their problem will be entirely different. They will say that the saltwater inundation is the major issue. So, and according to the cropping pattern also, the situation changes. Take the case of high ranges, Idiki and Wayanad districts. We have crops such as pepper, cardamom, coffee, tea, etc., which we don't find in any other districts. In certain high range tracts, we can find a few of these crops, but the major crops which is grown in Idiki and Wayanad are these crops. So, if you are trying to develop a product for this particular crop, you should always consult a farmer in that particular locality where it is commercially cultivated. I will take a typical example of one product developed by a farmer himself. So his name is Suresh. He is basically from Nalambur area of Malappuram district. He is a farmer. I think he has done his education maybe maximum up to 10th. But he is an extremely innovative farmer. He has rubber, he goes for rubber tapping. He has poultry rearing. So in the poultry rearing, one of the major laborious processes is the major manpower needed for poultry in poultry rearing, broiler poultry rearing is raking of the bed material. I don't know whether you are familiar with this poultry rearing. Before you are going for broiler rearing, the shed, the floor of the shed will be filled with almost about a inch thickness or inch more than an inch thickness of sawdust or carpet and all. That's we call it as bedding. So if once you release the chicks, as the chicks grows, this litter with this bedding will be all contaminated with fecal material from the broiler chicken. So it gets accumulated layer by layer. So every day we have to mix that so that it's not accumulated layer by layer. If it is accumulated, the fecal matter is accumulated layer by layer, it leads to the incidence of disease. So to prevent that, we have to mix it regularly. That mixing is an extremely laborious process. So Suresh found that extremely difficult to do this. It's extremely time consuming. So he found out designed a tool by which we can easily turn or mix up this bedding material. He has filed patent for it. And he has got several funding from several government agencies for developing it into a commercially viable product. See, the farmer himself, Suresh himself, has identified that problem, that raking, we call it as raking, that mixing up of this bedding material, technically we speak it as raking. This raking of this bedding material is highly laborious and time consuming for Suresh. So he tried to overcome that. He designed a product which can be adopted in other poultry farms all across the state of Kerala. So we must identify a felt need of the farmer. That means felt need means a farmer, a need or a problem which is extremely critical for the farming community in that particular locality. I will always put that in that particular locality, because location wise the problems will vary. So how to overcome that? How to overcome a location specific problem? There can be certain problems which may not be location specific, but there are certain which are location specific. Say wild animal attack, except for the coastal areas, I told you, in high ranges and midlands, it is a major problem. So, but there are certain problems which are extremely specific. I will take one typical example. In certain parts of our state, the paddy lands are extremely muddy. The clay content is extremely high. There will be almost waterlogged. We have certain patches in Calicut. We have certain patches in Ernakulam district, and also several parts of the state. We have several patches which are extremely muddy, covered with complete mud, and it is extremely deep. It is almost always waterlogged. So in that situation, we need to develop a equipment which can carry out the operations in that paddy fields which are extremely muddy in nature. Whereas take the case of the Pokali lands of Trichy. I don't know whether you are familiar with the Pokali lands of Ernakulam district, where we have to harvest the paddy, the panicles of rice, while we travel through the boats, because the panicles will be standing above 1 meter above the water level. We have 1 meter water, above that the panicle will be there, and above the water we have to ride the boat and we have to harvest it. It's an extremely laborious process. So we have to design a floating harvester, a harvesting machine which can float over the water surface at the same time harvest the panicles from the paddy from the rice plants. So this cropping pattern is entirely different in different localities. So you must be able to identify a problem which extremely critical for the farming of how you can identify that problem. Discuss with the farmers. Identify key farmers in your locality. Once you have identified a few farmers, key farmers, if you some of your relatives may be engaged in farming, just discuss with them what are the problems that they face in their farming, and try to identify some ways by which we can overcome that problem. That is the development of an idea. That is, we call it as the ideation stage. Once you have that idea in your mind, again go back to that farmer, the person with whom you have discussed to identify the problem. Go back to the farmer, discuss with the idea with that farmer himself. So once you discuss that idea, the farmer will always give a feedback how it can be adopted in the field. What can be the potential problems if you try to implement that idea into the field? Once he gives the feedback, it can be positive, it can be negative. If there is a negative feedback, if they point out, if the farmer points out a particular flaw in your idea, rectify it. So it's a back and forth. Discuss with the farmer thoroughly while we develop the idea. Once you develop the idea, after getting the approval, then that's fine. Upload it in the YH. In the YIP, agriculture of customer module, instead of VOC, it should be VOF. You should listen to the voice of the farmer. Listen to the voice of the farmer, identify the problem, have an idea, frame an idea based on the problem faced by the farming community, and again discuss that idea with the farmer, get the feedback, modify that idea based on the feedback received and submitted. That's the ideal way of formulating an idea for the farmers. So that's the first part I want to discuss with you, because most of the times when we evaluate the proposals in YIP, we usually see a lack of understanding of the problems faced by the farming community. So it's better to avoid that so that you can have a viable proposal submitted in the YIP. So what can be the potential problems? So I will just list out a few problems which, based on my experience, that my experience is very limited. If you ask any farmer, they may have more experience than me. They will give more number of problems than what I am just listing out. See, one major problem that is faced by the farming community all throughout the state is the damage by wild animals, especially wild boars. We call it as wild pigs. So if we have that wild pig damage, how can we have a forewarning system? Can we have a repellent mechanism to repel the wild boars and other wild animals, including elephants, from the paddy fields? Because that is a extremely threatening menace to the agriculture. A lot of farmers are leaving agriculture, especially in the hilly tracts, because of the wild animal damage. So we can't kill them. The only way is to repel those animals away from the fields. What can be the strategies? It should be cost effective. One major problem that always you should keep in mind is these animals have the extreme ability to adapt to that repellent. Say, or we developed a few olfactory repellents. Olfactory repellents means smell-based repellents against wild boars. But the problem that we now face is these smell-based repellents, after the use for about 1 or 2 months, these wild boars get adapted to that smell, and they they will not be repelled by this wild boars after the use for 1 or 2 months, because they will get easily adapted to that particular smell. So we should try to overcome this. Another major threat is birds, monkeys, etc. All these animals are protected under the Wildlife Act. We can't kill them. Only way is to keep the animals away from the crop, or how to protect the crop. Say birds, if we can have a protective covering to the fruits, a cheap and easily adoptable protective covering to the crop, if you can develop it, such kind of thing, extremely easy. So these kind of mechanisms or ideas to ward off wild animals can be one such options. I'm just listing it out so that you can develop on this while you are discussing with the farmers. Then the next is the low cost techniques for harvesting. See, most of you might be aware of the difficulty in harvesting, especially mangoes, jack, etc., from extremely tall trees. Can we have a mechanism for it? There are several tools for it, but if you have, especially for jack and all, it extremely tall, we don't have an easy mechanism. That is one thing you can develop. Another major problem that for the farmers is farmers try to use metal based poles for harvesting. Our iron pipes and iron rods are the major materials which are used for harvesting this produce, especially mangoes, jack, etc. But the use of this iron rods, iron pipes, etc., will lead to electrocution. Every year, we read about losing a number of lives. 20 to 30% lose their life because of electrocution while they are using this electric iron pipes or rods for harvesting. Can we have a simple mechanism to overcome that, to avoid this kind of electrocution? So harvesting mechanism, harvesting tools. So it's not only mango, jack, etc. Say take the case of nutmeg. Again, it has to be harvested regularly. So there are several commodities which needs to be harvested. Then simple kind of dryers. It can be solar dryers or any kind of dryers which can be cheap and which can be effective. Then there can be so many proposals you see about the smart agriculture. We can have sensors. Those who have some idea about sensors and all, we can have. But sensors, one thing we should always keep in mind is already we have several kinds of sensors, especially moisture sensors, pH sensors, etc., which is readily available in the market. So try to develop a product which can sense other factors, especially nutrients and all. So if we can develop a sensor for nitrogen, detecting nitrogen in soil, phosphorus in soil, it's a bit tricky. As school students, it's not that easy to develop a sensor. But if you have a passion for this kind of techniques, you can specifically go for it. Then mobile based diagnostic tools. So one, you might have used Google Lens. I think students might have used, if you don't know a particular thing, just take a picture in the Google Lens. Google Lens will tell us if it is a blank. Google Lens will give options. It can be this, it can be similar to that. If you have a problem in the particular crop, just take a picture of it. Your app should show give an idea of what is the problem, and it should give a recommendation to it. Then the farmers, there are several pest and disease problems in various crops. So several times we see students proposing ideas on botanical pesticides for the management of pest and diseases. But one major thing always you should keep in mind is these kind of botanical products needs registration. It's a cumbersome process. It's not that an easy thing to obtain a registration for that. Then small scale, small farm mechanization. See, I've seen a farmer, a very old farmer. He's still alive. His name is Avaran, again in Malappuram district. So this farmer has developed a very small tool for dehusking areca nuts. Nowadays, we have very huge machines for dehusking areca nuts, removal of that husk, that skin part of areca nut. But that is viable only for large farmers. For a small scale farmer, he has developed a small tool by which a small quantity of areca nut can be dehusked very easily. So we call it a small farm mechanization, identifying a small problem in a particular area, particular area of agriculture, and try to overcome by developing a small tool. See, it can be an extreme. See, I've seen a farmer developed a small tool for transplanting vegetables and all. And another area is I've seen that is developed with the help of a scientist from KU, Dr. Gigin. Nowadays, most of the planting materials, it is sold in polythene bags. You have to see in nursery, it will come in black. You might during that World Environment Day celebration on June 5th and all, you will receive a lot of planting material in polythene bags. But this polythene bags, again, it is polluting the environment. So one student has tried to develop a biodegradable polythene bag, biodegradable coating material, so that the plastics which is used for maintaining a planting material can be avoided. So these kind of ideas is always welcome. How to avoid this kind of plastics in agriculture, and certain now many of the farmers are practicing terrace cultivation, homestead cultivation and all. So can we have a small automation system in that? So can you automate this? Say irrigation, can you automate it? Fertilization, can you automate it? So these kind of automation systems you can think of. Then if someone is more interested in the marketing aspects, say economic side of this, say I will always consider one of the major problems faced by the farming community is very low price that is realized by the farming community. See the price of Nendran banana now, it's somewhere between 20 and 25 rupees. Between 20 and 25 rupees a kg, it's not viable to the farming community. So people are trying to develop apps so that the produce can be marketed at a higher price directly to the consumer. So those who have skill in app-based developing apps and all, so that is one such area. But one major problem you should always realize is it's not an easy task. You have to have a pool of farmers at one end, a pool of consumers at another end. So it's a difficult task, but still, if you can develop it in a small locality, in your locality itself, say if in your ward itself, try to collect the resources of the farmers in that particular locality, give the sale in their home, and in the persons in that locality itself can purchase it. So the farmer can fetch a better price for them, and the consumer can get a fresh produce from the neighborhood itself. So these kind of arrangements can be thought of. So there are several things. What all things I told you, it's based on my own ideas. So you can develop on this. So I will just conclude my session by saying that the first part, I will always critically emphasize, always before developing an idea, before submitting an idea, always consider the voice of the farmer. Discuss with the farmer. There will be n number. I discussed only a few problems faced by the farming community. So discuss with the farmer, try to identify the problem and try to solve that problem through your own ideas. And the second part, I have discussed about a few ideas which you can work out, but all those certain ideas may not be suitable for all, because depending upon your own expertise, you can develop your own ideas after consulting with the farming community. See, I have seen, I think in YIP 3, one engineering student has developed a cardamom washing machine. He was from Idiki, so he knew that washing cardamom is a time-consuming process. So he developed a machine so that the time consumed in washing cardamoms can be uh, reduced. So these kind of practical problems, if you identify, you can simply develop an idea based on it. In YIP, you have to only submit the idea. Based on the idea, if the idea is worthy enough, it will be selected and you can work on that idea later. So the major thing is formulating the idea, but that idea should be able to solve some problems of the farming community. So try to submit very good ideas so that the farming community of our state is benefited. Thank you. So you can ask any questions based on it.
ആർക്കെങ്കിലും ഇനി എന്തെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഈ ടോപ്പിക്കായിട്ട് റിലേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിക്കാവുന്നതാണ്. സർ, ഒരു ഫ്യൂ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് നേരത്തെ ഫ്രീ ആയിട്ട് കിട്ടിയിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു, അപ്പോ അത് ഞാൻ ചോദിക്കാം. സോ ഫസ്റ്റ് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ, വാട്ട് റോൾ ഡസ് ജനറിക് മോഡിഫിക്കേഷൻ പ്ലേ ഇൻ ദ ക്രോപ്പ് ഇംപ്രൂവ്മെന്റ് ആൻഡ് ഹൗ ഇറ്റ് ഈസ് പ്രിവെന്റഡ് ദ അഗ്രികൾച്ചർ കമ്മ്യൂണിറ്റി? What is its impact on the people consuming?
The genetically modified crops, as far as our country is concerned, only cotton is permitted. No other crops are permitted in our country. Mustard, there was one approval, but it is withheld as of now. So as of now, cotton, we are not consuming it. We are utilizing an industrial crop. So as of now, for the past, maybe for the past 20 years, we are cultivating wheat, cotton, the genetically modified cotton. But one, as students, you should always understand, see, genetically modified crops you should not always consider this genetic modification as an extremely negative tool in crop improvement. I will take a typical example. See, take the case of rubber, one of the major commercial crop in our state. So rubber board, under rubber board, we have a research institute in Kottayam called as Rubber Research Institute of India. So Rubber Research Institute of India has identified a gene in rubber itself. In the rubber plant itself, they have identified a gene which helps the rubber to tolerate higher temperature. One major reason why the rubber is cultivated in the midlands and not in the coastal area is rubber requires a cooler climate, especially in the morning period. So that means, especially during the peak period of latex production in rubber is November, December, January, where the morning temperature, the minimum temperature is goes to about 17 to 20. Below 17 also, it's detrimental to rubber. But take the minimum temperature in rubber growing belts of Kerala this year. It has not fallen below 23 or 24 degrees Celsius. So the productivity will be going down. We are facing a extremely difficult situation of climate change. See, this is January. The last 1 week, we are receiving huge quantum of rain. I haven't seen such a rainy period in January during my 45 years of life. So these kind of climatic aberrations need these kind of solutions. This is not a gene from another crop. This is a gene already present in the rubber itself. So we can modify it. We have new genetic modification tools such as CRISPR-Cas9. This CRISPR-Cas9 is silencing of genes. The gene in the crop itself will be silenced. So it's not the age-old genetic modification technology wherein gene from extremely different organism is put into a crop. No, it's not so. It's not the usual genetic modification that we were taught maybe 20 or 30 years before. No. So nowadays scientists are playing with the genes present in that particular crop itself, particular plant itself. So in humans itself, it's not maybe within 10 or 15 years, you will see a drug genetic therapies based on silencing of genes responsible for causing cancer, diabetes, etc. So this genetic modification, it will come. But how ethically it can be adopted, that's the thing that we have to think of. So you shouldn't be completely against genetic modification. So that we should be able to try to find a way to develop crops which can be easily adaptive to the climate change. Okay, hope I answered this question.
Yeah, I got it.
Sir, we have a question in the chat box. In fact, we have two questions. The first one is, what are the current challenges in the agricultural industry that students should be aware of? This is from Abhinav.
I think I have listed a few during my thing. See, wild animal damage. So that is one of the major things. So you can the low adoption of technology. See, technology adoption is the lowest in agriculture. Then huge labor cost. That's what I told you about mechanization, small farm mechanization. So there are several problems, and one major, that's why I asked you to discuss with the farmers to identify those problems.
Thank you, sir, for addressing that question. And the second one is, climate change is the most important problem of the farmers. It can be prevented by polyhouse, but it is so expensive. So what to do?
See, we don't have a single answer to climate change. Polyhouses are not a single answer to climate. Actually, these polyhouses are considered as a cultivating system for off-season production of crop. This polyhouses, when it was first developed, it was developed to cultivate crops during the off-season. Off-season means especially in European countries and in the Western countries, they have a very severe winter where the temperature goes below sub-zero levels. So in those scenarios, if they have polyhouses, they can retain the temperature inside the polyhouses. They can maintain the temperature. They can enhance the temperature. So they can go for off-season production of vegetables and other crops inside the polyhouses. But in our state, this off-season production means it's mainly during the monsoon period where certain crops such as tomato, cucumber, and all cannot be easily grown outside in the high monsoon period. So against the climate change, polyhouses may not be a viable option. But why has not taken up
Beren sir, I think we have a network issue from your side.
polyhouse cultivation has not taken off in our state is the polyhouse construction itself costs. So we're investing 5 or 6 lakhs for construction. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
We can
yes,
hear.
sir.
Yeah.
It is fine now.
Okay. So when the salad cucumber comes to the market does not differentiate the salad cucumber coming from the polyhouse, which has a huge investment by the farmer, and the salad cucumber grown in the open field, which has a very low investment. Or both the cucumbers will be sold at the same price of 30 rupees a kg, or maybe 35 or 40 rupees a kg. So that means the farm, even if you're going for a higher, highly expensive sort of cultivation in polyhouse, the farmers may not realize it, may not fetch a higher price cultivation polyhouse. So that's the problem faced by the farming community in polyhouse. Only answer for that is we should go for a high value commodities, but that high value commodities are also not pretty much in certain areas of Tamil Nadu, they go for rose and all that, but that fetches pretty very high price. So in Pune and all, they go for this cultivation of this ornamentals, etc., which fetches higher price. So the polyhouse cultivation in Kerala, it's not an answer to climate change. We call it as a technique to go for off-season cultivation of vegetables and all, but the scope is a bit limited because of the low level of price realized in the polyhouse.
Sir, one more question is there.
Ah.
What are the government initiative in the agriculture sector? Asked by Abhijit.
There are a lot of government initiatives, uh, say for promoting innovation. I just told you about a farmer named Suresh who developed a machine for mixing up the litter in the poultry farms. He was given a startup grant of about 24.5 lakhs by the government. So government is having initiatives to fund your idea. So if you have a very viable idea, every year Kerala Agriculture University gives a call for the funding of startups. So you can, if you have an idea or if you have a prototype based on your idea, you can submit your idea. If you are selected, there is a chance of getting a funding. It's a grant of maximum to the tune of 25 lakhs. So till from 2019 onwards, Kerala Agriculture University has funded, given grants through Kerala Agriculture University. We have provided about 6.43 crore in grants to the startups. So that is one such initiative. There are several such initiatives, especially in processing sector, etc.
So we have two more questions. So one is, how do agricultural specialists address water management issues, especially in areas facing water scarcity?
See, we have an age-old technique called as precision farming, where we provide water through drip, sprinklers, etc. Sprinklers, the water consumption is a bit high. Drip irrigation system and all, the water consumption is pretty low. But the adoption of drip system is pretty low now, but the level of adoption is increasing year by year. So one of the major water scarce areas of our state is Palakkad district. So if you go to the commercial vegetable farmers of Palakkad district, you can see this precision farming by adopting drip irrigation, extremely popular among the commercial vegetable farmers of Palakkad district. So that is slowly getting adopted all throughout the state. There also we can go for sensor based irrigation. So if you're going for drip irrigation system, if you install a sensor in the field, the sensor will sense the moisture in the soil. That moisture level, based on the moisture level, we can irrigate the crop, automatically irrigate the crop. So an automation system can be designed based on sensors to reduce the water usage.
Sir, one more question is there. Any effective way to repel the rhinoceros beetle in coconut plantation? Asked by Dolby Thomas.
There are very age-old tricks to repel rhinoceros beetle from coconut.
Sir, your mic is muted. Hello, sir.
This, we can use naphthalene cake, etc. in the leaf axils to repel. Am I audible?
Right now, audible. Previously, no, it's not audible.
Okay. Rhinoceros beetle can be repelled by naphthalene balls, and neem cake, etc. But it's an age-old technique. But the problem is, whatever repellent that we use, any repellent that we use, because every month new leaf will come in coconut trees. If you're managing it every 30 days, we'll have a new leaf. So that new leaf is unprotected. If you keep a repellent material in the fresh leaf now, the next leaf that is emerging is unprotected. So you have to repeat this process of repelling this rhinoceros beetle every 2 months or 3 months. That is the major problem. It's not the lack of effective repellent materials, but you have to repeat it regularly at an interval of 2 to 3 months.
Okay, sir. Sir, next question is, what are a few ways to increase the production for the farmers with the comparatively small space?
See, we can have small kind of rain shelters. We can have terrace cultivation systems, big irrigation systems, etc. This rain shelter, etc. are all extremely good. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, so those are the techniques. Nowadays, hydroponics, aquaponics, etc. are also adopted in smaller scale, but commercially it may not be viable. Again, just like polyhouse cultivation, hydroponics and aquaponics, not huge investment. The price, again, the commodities is a bit low. So that's a bit tricky in hydro. But for those who are they can have a hydroponics or aeroponics system in their home itself, in the balcony of the apartments itself, to raise especially leafy vegetables and all. Now we have a few startups in Kerala itself. They have this hydroponics system of small spaces. Any questions?
Sir, two more questions. One is, recently there is an increase of cultivation of exotic fruits, rambutan, etc. So your opinion on this, will there be a future or any treat?
The problem, the rambutan, nowadays it's not an issue, but a lot of people are venturing into rambutan, and the local market may be a bit limited because there will be a large quantum of produce coming into the market in the season, June, July, etc. So you should try to expand, because rambutan is not a major crop in other parts of the country. So those who try to find out a market outside the state will survive. So marketing will be the trick in continuing the cultivation of an exotic fruit. We should not rely entirely on the market in the Kerala state itself.
Okay, sir.
One last question. That is, can we make an automatic irrigation with the help of moisture sensors?
Yes, already it is available, different kinds of sensors, but if you can develop a small low-cost sensor, especially for smaller areas, smaller farmers, it's good.
Okay, sir. I think that was the last question. So
Fine.
once again, I would ask the participants, if you have any more questions, you can put up, or we shall wind up soon. So I think that was the last question. So thank you so
Okay.
much. Thank you, sir. So actually, it was just a couple of days back that we came up with the request about taking this session, and sir actually, without even a second thought, was ready to take up the session for us. And we have no doubt, we would say you are the right person to take up this session. And we strongly believe the session has actually given the right idea and perspective about the topic at hand. So those in the session who are actually willing to innovate have received enough of idea to actually work upon this area of agriculture and plant sciences. So once again, we thank you, sir, on behalf of YIP, KDISC, and all the participants. Once again, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
May I can leave?